Welcome, everybody, back here at Segal Talks at the Martin E. Segal Theater Center, the Graduate Center CUNY, at the City University of New York, in Manhattan, in New York City, that has been hit so very, very hard. It is the epicenter of the Corona crisis, and the Corona moment that we thought would perhaps a bit relax. At the moment, there are signs that it is not going well. Today, the New York City Marathon has been canceled for the fall. Yesterday, on Tuesday, we had 35,000 infections in the US. It is the second highest or third highest number in the entire month, in the entire time of Corona. Since April, we haven't had such numbers. Over 2 million people are infected, over 100,000, many, many more died. Some people we don't even know that they have it. So it's a time of complication. Amnesty International is reporting from 12 European countries violence against minorities, against Roma in Romania, and harassment in Paris in some neighborhoods. Immigrant neighborhoods fines are 3 times as much when you don't wear a mask than in a posh and mostly white neighborhood. It's shocking to know. Sweden apologized. It has 62,000 infections and over 6,000 people dead, compared to Denmark, which we will hear a bit later. Belgium is opening theaters. The pubs are opening, and restaurants in Britain, they pretend it's all going back to business, but numbers are not favorable. Brazil had 1,374 dead people in one day. It's the highest ever recorded, and over 1 million infections. So it is a shocking numbers. Globally, 475,000 people are dead, 9.2 million are infected, and people don't seem to take care of it. Putin had a military parade without mask, and the EU is officially considering, when it opens its borders on July 1st, that no American can come to the European Union because they feel America is not able to contain the virus, and America would be in the same boat with Russia or Brazil as a nation that is no longer able to control it. It's shocking. Our president doesn't wear masks. He tells people they should inject themselves with a disinfectant. He goes into bunker where he has police clearing peaceful protests and holds up a Bible in front of a church. Is shocking. It's wrong. And we are very worried about a summer, perhaps, of violence. People have no trust in government, no trust in their workplace. They are confined at homes. Temperatures are rising. And we all hope that what needs to change will change. We as theater people are on the side of life, on the side of protest, but also to look at it in different sides and using art and changing ourselves, and then to change the world. In Saudi Arabia today said instead of 2.5 million people, they only will have 1,000 visitors coming for the Hajj, the great visit in Mecca. And since first time over 1,000 years, mosques are closed. So it is a time of incredible upheaval in the world. We are a car that came to full stop. We are flipping in the air, and we don't know where we land, on wheels or not, on the side. Is it a total crash? It's complicated. So in these times, we need to hear voices of artists next to the economists and virologists and PR managers and politicians. Artists have been on the right side of justice. Artists have been on the right side in the complex struggle for freedom and liberties. And if the world would listen to them, the world would be a much better place. If you look at any history, they always were what ultimately in the social justice and the progress of social justice, they were on the right side. In the world, we have many artists and significant artists, but they're also always artists who are masters of their field. They transcend even their own role. And some people say we have 2 Western masters left. When masters of theaters, where are the masters of theaters? The profession has changed. Maybe it doesn't exist anymore, like the master critic, but there are 2 left in the West. It's Peter Brook, and it's the great Eugenio Barba. And for us here at Segal Talk, to have Eugenio with us is a big day, is a significant, also compared to what we just heard about the complications we are living in. We are all in the same boat. And it's fantastic to have him with us. And I wanted to say just a little few things about him and his life. He grew up in Italy. He lost his father early in World War II. He didn't come back. He then thought about becoming a sailor, a welder. He wanted to perhaps go to the military academy, rejected it, and then somehow ended up as an immigrant in a way, learning, studying theater in Poland, and then working as an immigrant of theater in Denmark, first a little bit in Norway. His company, the Odin Theater, is for people who know theater history, know about theater, is one of the great, almost biblical stories, the great epic stories of theater. They did 79 productions in 56 years. Some of them took 2 years to prepare. He went to a small space, created an ensemble. He created a work for people that could stay together. He talks about the work he learned from Grotowski, with the body, with the work, poor theater, theater in small spaces, theater that is also geared towards justice. Somehow it was a political mission. He created what he called also a center for theater anthropology, and he is teaching. Anthropology is the science when humanities combine the history of the people of the earth. So he connects his work to that, and he has been quoted. And Bogart, who was on our program, said she quoted Barba as the main force when she said about stats, how to prepare for things the moment before the action takes place. And she, of course, has influenced so many others. Just to give you a little idea, so his ISTA, the International School of Theatre Anthropology, is open. You can go to the website, you can learn about what they learned. And I normally don't talk so much. It's because perhaps I'm a little bit nervous about all of it, but Eugenio, really, thank you for coming on. How are you? Where are you? What time is it?
Thank you very much for inviting me, Frank. I am living in a small town in Denmark for the last 50 years. And at 5 o'clock in the evening, when the shops close, all the center of the town looks like an empty landscape, urban landscape. So when the coronavirus obliged all of us to remain at home, it was not very difficult for us living in a small province and not going outside after 5, 6 o'clock. People just go where they have to go to some concerts, when there are concerts, theater, when there is theater. It is a very peaceful provincial town with a lot of associations where people gather. Is one of the characteristic of, I would say, the democratic spirit of Scandinavian. A lot of grassroots associations, people gathering, sport, Esperanto, languages, dogs, race dogs, but associations where people meet and create a sort of tissue, social tissue, which is independent by the mainstream and the manipulation of the press. So the quarantine for me was work as usual. I went to the theater. Then I met some of my actors. We were rehearsing. What changed drastically for me was that I was not traveling anymore. Half of the year I'm on the road, on tour with my actors, or alone or with some of my actors. So for 5 months, since 30 years, I've been here in Ulsterbro, and this has been the main change in my life. Otherwise, it has been a situation of work, concentration, and maybe a rhythm which was more calm, which gave me possibility of reading and seeing many other things, mostly reading, because this is what I enjoy.
Mhm. So Denmark locked down early, and what is happening? Do you wear a mask? For how many weeks or months are you?
Strangely enough, nobody uses mask here in Denmark because the medical authorities meant that it was of no use. So we are, I think, one of the few countries where we still can see people smiling. A friend of mine was telling me in Germany, he was a German stage designer, that it was very strange to go to a new theater. You speak and you know if people are smiling to you or are very serious. No, we don't use masks here in Denmark.
Mm.
It was sort of a shock for all, for most people, I would say, what was happening, because in our imagination had never been able to imagine something like this. So it was interesting to see how the then Danish population responded with a sort of civic responsibility toward the medical and prime minister was asking us. So it was a huge, huge civic discipline, which was very admirable, I would say.
Yeah, and very low cases of virus, very few dead people in Denmark compared to Sweden.
Yeah, everybody was surprised because everybody was expecting much more cases of illness, and but the virus was contained, and we can say that the lockdown functioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is quite incredible. You also use mask in theater, but nobody wears mask, but otherwise people do wear mask. You know, that whole idea of the face.
When we see in television, it is very, very strange to see that everybody is masked. Although by law in many countries, it's prohibited to wear masks in the streets.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. In the United States, for a time after some, I think after the civic unrest, Zuccotti Park in New York City, and Occupy, that nobody's allowed to wear a mask. Now everybody has to wear a mask. It is strange. As a question, I think you have, I counted it, 16 or 17 honorary doctorates from around the world for your work, and one you got in 2019 from the Peloponnese University in Greece. You said you wondered what will happen when this island of freedom, this theater world we live in, when there are no subsidies anymore, when we are in a different in a different place. What do you think about theater now? What is happening to theater?
Throughout the whole history of our profession, theater people was dependent from financial resources given by sponsors or church or public authorities. From the very beginning, it started in Athens. It was the town who was giving a lot of money and invented this strange expression called theater in order to glorify the town's political system, which was unique at the time, democracy, to the point that the Athenian authorities were paying the citizens to go to theater because they were losing their working day. So from the very beginning, there was a body who was paying for people to do theater. in Europe was in the Middle Age, the church, who was providing funds for the religious mysteries. You had a lot of spectacular manifestations, but those were so-called charlatans, etc., who were then selling something afterwards. They were using theater or theatrical manifestations, music, stills, all this to attract people and sell something. But the great moment of freedom for us theater people was when the first professional companies were created, because when in the 1550s are the first contracts, when the first companies arise of professional theater, they liberate themselves from the church, from the aristocracy, and they invent a territory of freedom where the spectators are paying very little, and therefore they can begin again to do what they want, the theater people. Then with the time, once again, the spectators wanted to have certain things, and therefore the actors became again prisoners of the market. Then there was another attempt to liberate oneself. Because all the time there was this sort of complementarity in our profession. On one side, we need resources, economic resources to do theater. And on the other side, we want to be independent from the power who's giving the money, and in a way, condition our way of doing theater. And the attempt to get a new freedom were at the end of the 19th century, when something called art theater arose. This small theater who were not longer interested in complying with the taste of the spectators. And it is the first time that the word art is connected to our profession. Our profession has always been and still is a commercial enterprise. It's an enterprise where you join in order to entertain spectators. Then you can give an aim, a sort of metaphysical value to what we are doing. And this is what happened through the art theater, when in the 20th century, theater was entertainment, but at the same time could become a tool of ethical education, of political awareness, therapeutic, artistic, aesthetic experiments. So all the names which really have shaped our horizon, our way of thinking and doing theater. I'm speaking from Stanislavski, the first one. It's art theater. He writes a biography, My Life in Art. He says, you didn't say my life in theater. I mean, for him, he was connected with a sort of particular vocation of our profession, and not just only entertainment, which is fundamental, because without entertainment, you bore spectators. Entertainment is the 0 degree, it's the fundament. It is so important as, I would say, bread in a Mediterranean diet, but bread is not only enough. So you have these artists who begin to give to theater a sort of extra value, And then I can mention there are Meyerhold, Gordon Craig, if you think the thousands of theater daytime was the only entertainment. And then comes film. And film is our epoch performance. And in a way is taking away the importance of our profession. Live performance is reduced and is still reduced for, the number of spectators are reduced. So what can we do with this profession, which strangely enough is not disappearing in spite of all the technology? Each generation, new generation, young people comes to theater. And here comes the question, why do people choose to do theater? Why don't they choose a profession which is useless, meaningful, noble? Why don't they become doctors, anthropologists, pedagogues? So the question is not if theater is necessary or is important. The question is, what is theater for me who have chosen this profession? The society doesn't need theater, I think. The proof is these days, they have opened everything, banks, schools, even universities in Denmark. Theater is still closed, nobody is protesting. And we can continue to keep it closed for 1 or 2 years, nobody will protest. But theater is necessary for me, who is doing. Therefore, I went to theater. Nobody sent me a telegram or a letter or an invitation. Mr. Barba, please, come and do theater because we want you to do it. It was my necessity. And this is what I think. There will always be on this planet people who have a wound, who's longing for something, want to escape. And therefore, they will join theater. So I'm very optimistic. In spite that the numbers show that statistically the theater is diminishing, there will always be a sort of enclave, small enclave, with people who will try to build their own island of freedom. There will be, I hope, the huge body of theater, which is entertainment, which is the big industry, because this gives to us a reflection of the importance of our profession. It's present. It gives good arguments, economical arguments for tourism, but it gives also for the theater culture I belong to, which is the culture of theater groups, of this very strange, particular wave of joining together, which happened after the 68, in the 70s. I have begun before because of age. So when I began, it was in 64. So I began according to what I knew from theater history. I was not accepted in professional theater. All right, I could begin as an amateur. And I began as an amateur. And then slowly I managed, yes, I say, I managed to set up or to invent a new production system, which was not only dependent on performances. With Odin Teatret in 65 begins what are today a huge market of workshops, of alternative pedagogy. In 64 there were only theater schools, and but no one was giving workshops. So when we start doing this, it was very difficult for traditional actors. They were all traditional actors at the time. There were no this huge, rich polyphony of theatrical manifestations, expression as today. It was very building. This building, they were performing texts, and in those days, the ferment was given by authors, by people like Beckett, Ionesco, the angry young men in England. They were the playwrights who were giving a sort of disturbance in the criteria and the norms of the theater life. But when Odin Teatret, and then you have Peter Schumann in the United States, you have La Mama who opens, but it's very interesting when La Mama opens this space of freedom in New York, it is in order to help playwrights. And only in the 70s begins this very different way of considering theater as a sort of physical, spiritual experience. There, of course, are those texts which were published in the early 60s, Grotowski, and then many, many others have been contributing to this deep, deep change, which has not affected very much what you can call the main body of theater. But where in Latin America, for instance, where these huge industry, theatrical industries, doesn't exist. All the ferment, the richness, the rage, the wrath, the lust to fight. I'm still existing as an individual. It is given to theater growth. And therefore, I'm optimistic. There will always be, in a generation, someone who wants to fight because a deep wound will make them join together with others into theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think, let's go to what are you thinking about at the moment when you have the time, perhaps a bit more? You say you're still rehearsing, but is this time of Corona changing your view of the world? Are you seeing things different?
No. I think that the human being is an animal that is not generous by itself, that he can accept what is different in small doses. When there are bigger doses, he becomes racist. I don't think that even if technology is being used much more in this period, this has to say, yes, technology is also being used to make children. You can make children in laboratory now, but most of the people who want to make children will go to the archaic technology of making love, and the same will be in the future with theater. People will go, if they want to see theater, they will go and see human beings in front of them. So it's not changed. I think that at once we will be over this. people will forget, because this is the great, I don't know if it's a good consolation, that our memory does not persecute us with memories of horror. People can forget and then goes on and get involved, committed, or indifferent to what's happening in the present.
Hmm. I think in '99 you wrote a book that came up with Black Mountain Press. It's called, if I have the title right, Theater, Solitude, Craft, Revolt. Is this a moment of solitude at the moment that will help to shape craft and become a revolt, will come a revolution or something that turns, do you think?
I think solitude, there is a bad solitude and a good solitude. I mean, solitude is when it is imposed on you and you are lonely because you are excluded. Then you will feel solitude. But solitude, it means that you yourself choosing a moment of retiring from the social links, connections you have, to be together with yourself. When we speak about theater, we speak of two very, very different things. We are speaking now about theater, and this is something vague, general, as it was only one dimension. But then there is another way of knowing what theater is, and it's the daily struggle that each theater person has every day to get up, to take the streetcar, the bus, to go to a venue. And for some people, venue is a huge theater, clean, where somebody has been clean, etc. For others, it's maybe a cellar or a garage or a storehouse, how filthy. And then you have to find or you have to face the hundreds of decisions, how to find the money, how to do this. And so theater is this sort of personal struggle with a lot of decisions, but you're alone. You are alone, especially if you're a director and you have the responsibility for other people. Of course you are alone. You can't go and have a sort of consolation from your actors. You have to give energy to your actors. So solitude is, I think solitude is a fundamental part of our profession. This I know because when I arrive in certain small places and I go and visit, or because I've been invited by a theater group, I see what it means for them to have the visit of a foreigner or a person, because you are isolated. But this is what I also experienced when I was in Poland, in a communist country in early 60s, how the country was closed, there were no foreigners. And as a foreigner, I was enjoying a status of first economical security, I had a scholarship, and also psychological, intellectual security, because I had a passport. I could leave this country any moment, while Poles and as all the communist countries, inhabitants had no possibilities of living, and this sense of solitude, of being isolated. And therefore, it was so important, the exchange. So solitude, I think, is a part of our destiny. Of course, I know that it exists a culture today where being together is very important, where to mobilize or to engage the spectators, as if people is forgotten that exist two types of energy. The fact that you are looking at me, you don't do nothing, just look at me, does it mean that you are passive? or that you are inside you using another type of energy, the mind, which is in this very moment active, trying to shape words and find the right sentence in this language, which is not mine. But you are taken, you are driven by a receptive energy. And this is theater. This is a moment where a receptive energy meets an active energy. And the actors know this very well. They can feel this sort of vibration, quality of silence that the spectators can create. And the applause, certain applause, which are sort of, and another applause, which almost are like tears or like crying. So, yes, I think solitude is the destiny of an actor. The moment you start an improvisation, the moment you are facing the task, you are alone. Nobody can help you. The director can take you until a certain door, a certain limit, a certain, and then the actor goes alone there. The director remains. The actor sails away. I remain on the harbor, see him really facing all the dangers of superficiality or of selfishness or of losing the feeling, the thread, which makes you come back to what is the professional awareness, or if you want, the professional superego, which means you are doing all this for somebody else. And this is the spectator. Because theater is the spectator. We can do all the exercises we want, we can do all, but if you don't think that this is something which I'm giving, offering to a person, which I call spectator, and this spectator is a person who is offering me 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of her life. Winter time, snow, cold, and then they go out of the warmth of their house and take a bus and travel half an hour, maybe 1 hour to go to the theater. It's good if it's a big theater. If it's a small theater, it's not very comfortable. So, and they come. And you must give to this person who is offering 3 hours of her life the best. So, this is the aspects of solitude which you face in the book. Is the preparation for this meeting, for the performance. Well, yes, but remember, always solitude is maybe so good, and there is a bad solitude.
Mm-hmm. A bad solitude in not having chosen it.
When I started in 1964, all my friends and everybody thought that I was disturbed, mentally disturbed, because they couldn't understand that I would do theater without having a venue. At the time, it was impossible to do a theater without a venue. All amateur theater had a small venue with a stage and a place for audience. And the fact that I was working in a classroom, in a school, and then started going in a gym, they couldn't understand. It was something totally wrong. Yes, was this, I felt solitude, although was not solitude. I was not recognized. But I had these four young people who were following me, and this gave a huge feeling of power, of being not alone. and this is very important, I would say, in group theater, where people gathers and establishes emotional ties that do not happen in professional theater. I mean, when we speak of theater, we speak also of two very different work organization. You have a mechanically, I say, aggregated experts, which are chosen because they have to achieve a certain standard in a product. Actors are chosen according to this, the director is chosen, the stage designer. So all they are aggregated in order to shape a result which must have a certain quality. But in group theater it's very different. People gather, first of all, because of certain needs, personal interests, sort of often ideology, but also because they create sort of small social, I would say, culture, and they build their own rules. And first of all, they are most of those groups are autodidact, which means they all have gone on the same process from a sort of ignorance and insecurity for something which gives them a feeling of worth, of professional identity. And this is shared. So when I started, we were speaking about bed solitude. It was not the fact that people was not considering what I was doing healthy. I would say simply healthy. I mean, it didn't disturb me so much because on one side I had these young people follow me, and then of course it's enough that one person believes in you. And my wife, she was working and gaining the money so that I could completely dedicate myself to this insane passion. And but you see, when I say insane passion, not because I want to do theater, but because I didn't want to give up. I didn't want the society or other people should decide on me. It was a sort of infantile reaction, maybe. But also because for me theater was necessary, because it was a refuge. I want to escape the discrimination I've been living as a WOP, a Lego, also it's called the nigger, among Scandinavian workers, or especially when I was a sailor. And I was a sailor, was a really unpleasant experience for us Italians, Spaniards.
So you were really discriminated by your fellow sailors on the ships.
But this is the reason why I do theater, because I had to
tell us a bit. Tell what happened. What made you? What happened, and what was the moment?
In the workshop, I was working as a welder. In a workshop, I was very accepted. Never I felt this sort that I was different. But this happened when I became a sailor. And then they simply, not only they insult you verbally, but the violence is also physical. In the sense that if you are queuing up to get your food, Scandinavian concept throws you away because as blonde albino, he has the right to come forward me. So all this was continuous struggle and fight. And then when I went back to Oslo, I continued to work in this workshop. But then I was also studying at the university. I was almost finishing at the university in the evening. And then I was asking, say, what, I'm going to be a teacher. But then this experience of how to hide my ethnic background. Because when people saw me, this was in the 50s in Norway, when there were not many foreigners. They, as I told you before, when there is a small doses, it is a curiosity. And a lot of people treated me kindly, openly. But also I felt that this was sort of discrimination, that they were not treating me like a normal person. So this, of course, I enjoyed very much when they treated me well. Then in the opposite case, then I started finding it's possible to find a solution to this problem. And then the solution I found was that I could become an artist. And then I found I cannot write, I cannot paint, I cannot. So I found out that there is an artist who sits on a chair and says, do this, do this, this is the director. And that's why I decided to go to theater. But I have to confess, theater in itself, or the performances, very few performances interest me. Otherwise, what I like is to work and create something which everybody thinks is not possible to create. Far away, everybody says, no, you can't do anything in a small provincial town with the not theater traditions, etc. And I enjoyed going there. And we had no performance. And at the time of the theater, still today, theater is designed or is defined by the identity of producing performances. We can, for months and months, sometimes even for 1 or 2 years, don't produce performances, but we have many other activities. And this is what has fascinated me, how our profession, which consists in establishing relationships. You establish relationship with the text, the past, with yourself, of course, as an actor, the director, in order to transform all these in live movements, intonation, silence, relationship to the spectator, to the space, to the death. So how can I could I use this knowledge, this know-how in other situations which were not only making performances? And this is what our group of actors, which is characterized by a personal obsession, not to lose them from the very beginning. I want them to remain with me because they have been my teachers. I've learned what I know thanks to these youngsters who left Norway, the country, the language, the family, the friends, and followed me to this small village town in Denmark and built this new way of, I don't know if it's a new way or old way, but it's a possible way of using what people consider theater.
Yeah, and they stayed with you.
Yes, they stayed very
It's
often.
remarkable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they stayed not because they loved me. Of course, they loved also me, but because as a director, my first duty, I felt, was to give them a salary every month. So I managed to secure a basis, an economical basis. Not very much, but they could live with it. In economy, in a personal economy, it's not how much you earn, but how much you spend. So if you live in a small town, you spend much less than in a bigger town. And this was one of the reasons why I accepted, I want to leave a big town and go to a smaller town, but also because I'm very political minded. And I know that in order to conquer the capital, you have to go to the provinces and then slowly encircle the bigger towns. So this was the reasons, economical reasons, and then of course a period of training in the sense of preparation, which was very, very hard. So that a lot of people went away, and those who remained because they found a meaning in this sort of work, where I could dictate hard working discipline, but I never dictated ideas. They could think what they wanted. Theater. There is no method, there is no philosophy. I am no one who says theater should be like this. What I want is that each of them could become as free as I felt. And then they become, and they have started to hear personal projects. So today, when you come and you see the 12 actors of Odin Teatret, they are at the same time directors, they have their own groups, they organize their own festivals. It is a sort of like, I feel like King Arthur with his knights, and they are doing a lot of very, very different initiatives, which are even far from my interests. But this is very important. Theater has made them grow, and then at the same time, there is this sort of extroverted, let's say, aspect, but there is the introverted, when we gather together and then we prepare a new production for several months, and we can invent a project where all together we can try to conquer a town or do something in our own town, Holstebro. So these are the reasons why people remained with me, because they also found the possibility of developing their own personal interests without coming into a conflict with me or with the interest of the company, the group.
Mm-hmm. No, it is absolutely remarkable. If I understood right, you were also rejected from art school in Norway. You found actors, all of them who were off by the institution said, you're not an artist. You will never be an artist. You said, yes, we can. It is not. It is a necessity. No. And you created something out of that. And you said, I'm going to go to a small space and a small place and then conquer. So there is something in there. And it obviously worked, for all artists who are listening also. I think Eugenio found, next to his artistic work, also an organizational work, an economic model. He found something that helped to create great theaters. Great theater. So your method of production, in a way, created also the aesthetic outcome? Is that kind of a...
I think that what was a very stimulating aspect of Odin Teatret, it was not only to see a group of actors well prepared and making performances which touched those who saw them, but also the way we were organized, and we were earning our money not only through performances, but also pedagogy. I mean, all the workshops starts with Odin Teatret, and the fact of the venue which is not with a stage and the separation, it's black room. it starts here. That we have a publishing, very important. Many theater groups, especially in Latin America, starts following. So we publish also. And then we alliances. I always say, because this is the characteristic of our profession. We are not able to collaborate with others because we are different. And while my attitude has always been, because of my immigrants experience, of course we are different, but we have to find the point of contacts. Therefore, I've been collaborating with many theater groups, concretely with projects. Although we have different aesthetical and even ideological vision of the world and of the profession. So all this has been the fact that they could come to Oslo, that we have a sort of, I would say, hospitality. I always, as an immigrant, also as a wanderer, I've been traveling in the 50s, always was impressed by, yes, by the generosity of people. When I was knocking at the door in the night and asking for sleeping in the garage or in a barn, if I was in the country, and they always opened the door. And then I felt that this is theater, something like Stanislavski wished that should be the theater houses where actors could travel and then go and visit and live in these theater houses, which were the theaters. So always the Odin Teatret from the very beginning, any group, theater group can come and perform, and then we will give them the money they receive from the box office, and then sleeping and 1 meal. So this is because I feel very much connected to these, the people of the group theater, because they are in a way refugees just like me.
And I think we all tend to forget how hard life was also for Italians. There were lynchings in America also of Italians just for being Italian. There were discrimination in neighborhoods. They were beaten up by Irish gangs and others because they thought they're the one under them. I think at City University till today, Italians are kind of have minority status and have some protection. So it's incredible, especially Italians coming more from the south of Italy, the insults. So that experience, you transformed it in something. You said also that somehow you are political, but with other means. Tell me a bit. You also mentioned that before. You said it was a political. I'm very political. Tell us about this.
When you experience abuse and overpower on your own person, of course, you start trying to find out who is responsible for this, not only the person who's doing this. And in the 50s, during the time of the Cold War, it was very evident that it existed a capitalist system, and it was a communist society, and a vision of how a society could be when the human being was not exploited. So of course, I was on the side of this vision. And this was the reason why I went to Poland, because it was a communist country. And that time also came out Jean-Paul Sartre's journal, Le Temps Moderne, Modern Times, an issue about Polish theater, literature, graphics, film. It was in the early end of the 50s when, just say a few names that probably will be known, people like Andrzej Wajda, Andrzej Munk, Waderovich, the young Polanski were in the film, and then they were unbelievable. The quality, the excellence of Polish theater. I mean, I can mention Cantor, I can mention China, the young Grotowski. So therefore I went there because it was the evidence that the system functioned. Like when I arrived there, then I discovered censorship, I discovered secret police, I discovered corruption, I discovered deep injustice. The deepest injustice was that the citizens were all prisoners of the state and they could not travel abroad. They had no possibility of having a passport. This was the greatest injustice for me, who had been an immigrant and a wanderer and been visiting India and many other countries. So I was cured by my political ideas, vision, but injustice continues to exist in the world. So how to fight? And then I thought that theater can be a sort of politics, where you have not to use political arguments, you have to use other arguments, or other means, or other tools. And what are these tools? The tools of beauty. And therefore, I say theater is politics by other means. Is this true? I can only speak on the basis of my experience. After 53 years, I know that I have changed quite a lot in the small town I've been working. In the beginning, when the mayor, not knowing anything about theater and was interested in having a theater company from Norway abroad, so that we didn't speak the language of the place. But I thought it was fantastic because we accepted to be there because we didn't want a building, a theater building. They had no theater building. We said any venue. They had their own farm outside the town. Fantastic. So we just took this farm. Therefore, it cost not very much to them. And they couldn't understand what sort of theater we're doing because we were not doing performances. We started with these seminars, these workshops, publishing, making a sociological inquiry about the habits of people or reactions of people who never been to theater, those who have been to theater many times, etc., etc. So all this surprised. But what these politicians did, which is unique, was that when we made our first performance, and they saw a program in television, they were very proud. For the first time, their town was coming on national television, but they were showing our training, and they saw people rolling on the floor, screaming. They thought they had invited a small group of madmen, and they reacted. Oh, the newspapers was full of letters of citizens furious with their politicians. They are really been cheated by them. And this continued for many, many years. But strangely enough, the mayor said, I'm not an expert in theater, but those who are experts in theater say that these young people have something. So let's wait a few years and see what they're going to do. This is the reason why I remained in Osnabrück, because this mayor made possible to us to find our wings. Yeah, I mean, this is just strange. All others are fish, and we are starfish, we have wings. And with the years, we have been literally conquering, but seducing and making one citizen after the other on the other side. The result was that when about 10 years ago, I made public the decision that we of the Odin have taken, that when we die as people, individuals, no Odin Teatret must continue, must disappear the name, because the people are the theater. No, we want not the building which keeps. So there was a huge reaction among the population, saying, but we need Odin Teatret. You must find out a solution so that something like you can continue. And this is, of course, influenced the last 10 years of our work, on my work, and of those of my actors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so politics without never speaking. We went to South America, participated to a lot of situations where really were arrested. And we were saying, well, we're naive Scandinavians, well, we have been sent by our queen in order to show the folklore of our country and exchange it with the cultural expressions of your country. Never speak about social changes or revolution. I admire very much the Living Theatre, who was very open in this.
The Living Theatre. The Living Theatre, you mean? Yeah, Judith Molina and Julian Bach. Yeah.
I love them. They were two so beautiful people. I mean, we invited them in 75. They remained with us for about a couple of weeks. Joe Chakin also. I had in the beginning contact with the American group theater, Ellen Stewart. Ellen visited us in '66. It was unbelievable that she had just come to Denmark, visit a friend, and the friend spoke about this small group in this small town. And then she visited us after that. She all the time, she wanted us to come. And so at the end, Odin Teatret visited New York twice, in 1983 once, and then in 2000 they visited because she insisted. And and Grotowski said, you must go to New York, because only if you go to New York we will take you seriously. Okay, so we did it. So we were taken seriously, and therefore we are speaking with you now.
No. That would be the other way around. Yeah. That is incredible. Yeah, I saw you, you know, after 50 years, you buried some of your stage props and costumes. You made a ceremony, you know, and to, I guess people can.
I consider it potlatch. This was after 50 years, we had so much there. And then what are we going to do? We didn't want to become a museum, and therefore we left the young, very, very young children from Bali, Kenya, Brazil, and Italy, who were doing theater or music. We invited them to this celebration, and they were performing, and they helped us to buy all this. And then we planted a seesaw on the place. Yes. You say the legend, and so it should be like a cloud there. From time to time, somebody gets some water from the cloud, and it's us who are just falling on the head of somebody. They will say, probably they can get some inspiration.
Yeah. That was a very beautiful idea also. I guess the townspeople came, and you also, if I saw right, you had a blessing of a horse. Was that in the church of your town? So you have an animal, you feel that this is missing. Is it a missing part, or was it?
I like what I to be subversive. What does it mean to be subversive? It is to subvert what is familiar, what is usual, and what everybody considers is normality. So how theater can subvert? How can theater be a sort of interference which creates confusion, mixing up, and disorientation, but at the same time makes people smile and be happy and accept this. This is, let's say, the strategy that even your enemies collaborate with you. And the idea was, we saw a remarkable, we knew them from before, but when we saw their performances also, a company, a theater company, a French in Marseille called the Theatrum Mundi Theater. And they are so poetic, so beautiful, really. And then we decided to invite them. And then to place them in the main square where there is the city hall and the main church. But for the first, it is prohibited in Denmark to have animals in them. So we had to convince the politicians and the staff, and we managed. Then we had to solve all the problems of how to feed it, to build, to take away all the muck. We had 10 horses there. It was a lot of logistics. At the same time, the people could no longer drive or go with bicycle, and therefore this creates also a sort of urban disturbance. But it was unbelievable because at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, when people was going to work, they went to the boxes where the horses were there, and they were giving carrots, and they were speaking. And the young people, they told me, some of them, after discotheque at 3 o'clock in the night, they were going to this strange, unbelievable universe of these horses. And they were taking the last beer there. And I seen one of the images which most has made me understand how we can change human relationships through theater or a sort of theatrical situation. I saw two families close to 2 boxes of horses. One was a Dane, and the father was lifting his child up to the horse, and then he was kissing the father, the horse, and then making the little child kiss the horse. Beside him was an Iraqi, Palestinian, I don't know, one just like me. His wife with covered, and the father was lifting up his child and doing the same, kissing the horse and letting his child. Mm-hmm. And then they saw each other and they smiled to each other and then they went. This is for me what theater can do, you see. And then for me, the greatest pleasure was to convince the priest, the pastor, to bless a Santor, and they accepted. And then we made a huge ceremony with a concert full of vitality, but with a deep respect for the sacrality, the solemn aspect of life, which religion represents. Mm-hmm. Certain people. And this blessing was really also something very, very touching. And,
I mean, it was
really unbelievable. A whole
incredible image. Yeah. She was a woman on a black horse standing, entering a full church inside. Then she would bend backwards, lie on the animal, sit down, and the priest would bless the animal, and she would ride out of the church. It's an incredible idea what theater can be. Somewhere.
Where did you see
clip? I saw that somewhere. Yeah, and last time I think horses were when the French army came over to Germany, and they would put their horses in the Cologne cathedrals, you know, to show that they didn't believe in God. But you said
Napoleon.
Or that's what he did at San Marco, I think, in Venice. But when he ended the idea of the Venice Republic, it was independent for so long. But I mean, the idea that theater can do that in that space, give a new meaning, but still doing God's work in a way that's connecting us to something bigger. And so it was remarkable. Yeah.
But when you say theater, it is politics with other means. What is politics? It is the longing for change. This is wish to change something, and we have changed mentality. Both sociologists and even the mayor also says that Odin Teatret is accustomed the inhabitants to diversity, to that point that there are no ethnic problems here. We have a rather huge minority also of Muslims. And so no doubt, and I think this is true.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a great writer. He also was teaching actually at our university, Edouard Glissant, and he said, it's a failure of imagination, the problem of racism. He said, it's people who cannot imagine. They might be very happy to have, you know, people from different living next to them instead of just the same, but they cannot imagine it, and art can imagine for a moment. And if it happens there, it can happen in life, and your town represents, I think, very much, and your life's incredible life's work represents that. What I'm interested in, your idea of barter or exchange, you know, in that time of post-corona. I mean, every New York artist, musician, theater artist, till the end of the year, there is nothing. There's no job, no gig. Restaurants even are closed. They might reopen where they could work and make money. As a kind of economy, did that work for you? Is this also part of, is it artistic ideas, your barter, or is it also exchange of an economic sense of work against protection place?
The barter is a possibility to make different people who never would come together and exchange something which is agreeable for both parts. If I go in a prison, if I find a person working in a prison who says, yes, let's organize a barter. So I or one of my actors will go and speak to the people there in the prison and say, we want to come and do something for you, sing, etc. But nobody works for free. So you must also pay something, no money, but some of what you do, you can do. So someone can make sketches, some can sing, some can tell a story. So they start organizing. And what happens? Why the barter is very important? Because it begins to create a completely different dynamic in the environment which has to host us. So even in the prison, they have to change so that they can come together. Sometimes if there is also a female department, the female can come and join and then be separated. So this is, once again, the purpose of the barter, just like the horses, etc. How to be disruptive, how to be subversive, but in a way that doesn't provoke, and that even those who are against it accept it. I mean, the director is satisfied that theater comes, he is not to pay anything, and he can say, oh yeah, look, in my prison, the inmates can do all this. And then we come, and so it is not an economical, it is the moment where with the inmates we have nothing to do with me and my actors. And the same, my actors have, but nevertheless, it is as a sort of proves that deep, distant people can find something, just 1 hour, to exchange something. This is unbelievable, in a way. And then, of course, each of us is going and remain in the let's say, in the difficult or indifferent situation where they live. But for a moment, there was this meeting where everybody was trying to present itself to what it is. It's not art. It's not art. One of my actors who is really specialized, he lives in a small village outside Holstebro, and he has transformed the whole village in a village laboratory where there are about 100 families collaborate, and they make a biennale. He says, but I take a person, and this person is an old woman, and this old woman is good to water flowers. And then I make a sort of structured performance where she's watering. She does what she knows, and she does well. So this is, in a way, the idea of barter. But first of all, use barter in order to mobilize, to create a dynamic in the environment where you arrive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I very, very strongly believe that everybody starting out and people doing art thinking, how should theater look like even after or during and after time of Corona, really, really should study what the solutions you found, the ideas you lived through action, also through thoughts, and as you said, also incredibly enough, through publishing. You very early on were a writer, you did the Katakali research. I know Richard Schechner, when he was still in New Orleans, in the Tulane Drama Review, when it was TDR was not theater, it was Tulane. You know, he published your work early on, and you knew him, and that you were interested in this idea of a university, or what you call it, you know, that the international school of. So it is also about education. So what you do, you create a community, you teach, you learned everything from your class. It's a model, I think, that works, and that is also showing in itself, you know, as a proof that is something, as you said, that seems impossible in the time we live, that something is possible. If I may ask that question, and might hopefully not sound too simplistic, but you said theater is necessary for me.
What?
Why? You said theater is necessary for you as an artist. That's the reason you do theater, because it's necessary. So why is it necessary? What is theater, and why do we do it?
I can only answer for myself. I don't know why other people wants to do theater. I chose theater because I want to find a solution to this problem of ethnic recognition. When people see me, and if I say I'm an Italian, I'm an Italian welder, or I'm even an Italian teacher, there will be a reaction. If I am an artist, I automatically am treated in a different way. This was my way of thinking. Maybe I'm wrong, but this was my way, which made me choose theater. And then I thought, theater. I was not very from the very beginning aware of it, and then I slowly, you know, by solving practical problems, but which seemed for everybody impossible to solve. But I started solving, and then you can do theater also far away from big towns. So in a Holstebro I began to understand that I could build a sort of micro society completely free of all the criteria, the norms. And this is how the Odin Teatret, for me and for my colleagues, of course, there's a very strict discipline, self-discipline, in order to achieve certain results. Because you don't achieve, we Odin Teatret people, because we are not big artists. But what seems impossible is only the possible, which takes more time and a lot more personal efforts. This is what characterizes us. We are a sort of stubborn, bit infantile people who don't give up. Therefore, theater war is necessary for me because it permits to keep my freedom. This type of theater, which is sort of my personal struggle together with an environment which has certain values, which has a certain, which recognizes the pleasure of generosity, of hospitality, and where diversity is the normality. I mean, we are 25 people living here, different colors, different races, different religions, different genders. So this is public theater. Therefore, it's theater necessary, not because it's entertainment or change the world. No.
Yeah, it's incredible, and in a way, I mean, there's a beautiful poem by Rilke I always like, and it talks about the son who had to go to the church in the East because his father wouldn't go there, and he felt he had to leave behind. You went to Poland, you went to India. Do you feel that we have to pay still attention to a world of mysticism or spirituality or something that perhaps came to there? Is that something where you feel Western theater should refocus? You're so well known for your work with voice and body, your significant groundbreaking work of training the voice and the body. Do you feel that this is still what companies should be doing, or are you looking also at other directions?
We all have an enemy, which is routine. We, after a certain moment, we try to find something new. This is a necessity, especially when the director and the actors are always the same. We know each other very well. If I go and meet a group of other actors, they are different. So there is a sort of novelty in this relationship. But our relationships are so established after 50 years, 55 years, 40 years. So we know each other very well. So what I call the earthquake in the group are very important. Otherwise, we get extremely bored. And if we are bored in an environment, we want to go away. This is the law of life. We human beings are attracted by the word energy and stimuli. So for us, the Odin is very, very important to invent situations which disorient and create a sort of, I call them earthquake, and where we have to build again the group dynamic, but using the experience we have. We have to use it in a different way. And already the fact that the whole dynamic of the group is one of introvert, extrovert, where the individualistic tendency are enhanced so that each of them has their own interests that are very different. So part of the year they can involve themselves in this, and then part of the years they can come back and find the security and at the same time the challenge which we all wish to create in order not to remain prisoner of routine. So all this is very present in our culture, in our group culture. Each of us thinks all of this. How can I surprise my colleagues? How can they say, no, are you doing this? So life is movement. Life is change. Life is energy which all time transforms itself. And if you don't follow this, then it stagnates. And people leave you, and they have right. They are right to leave you because you are no longer nourishing them.
Yeah, this is an important, that life is movement and it's energy and it has to transform. And we are in that big moment of transformation. Spider Woman, that Native American women's company we had on Monday, she said, perhaps we are in a moment of a new creational myth. Something is starting, but we don't know what will happen. As the stories all are, and mythical stories, if you listen to them, whether it's the Mahabharata or the Tazir, we don't. But now we know because we tell them, but right now we're in the middle, and you have found something almost like you ate a little bit from the apple of the tree of knowledge. You stole something from the paradise. I think it was Kleist, which I admire very, very much, when his essay on the marionette theater said, maybe theater, and he of course talked about puppetry, is the way to get the back door into paradise, in that state of innocence and bliss and marveling at the world and searching for truth. But also means that this is, and you did that. And I also like what you said. I never thought about it, this Arthurian idea. I think Joseph Campbell, who wrote so much about stories, said the story of the East often were gurus, like perhaps Grotowski and Cantor were like gurus, and he had to follow them. He forbid his company members, Cantor, to see other performances. They were not even supposed to leave their hotels when they were in New York. But you said no, they are more like the knights of the round table. They go out, they slay their own dragons, come back, but they tell the story. And this is our Western myth at the moment that we are living, and that is perhaps a way to think about life, as perhaps the old Homeric tales with the multiplicity of gods. You have to honor. You don't honor one. Everything is in this way. Yeah.
Frank, one of the learning a technique, a profession, is not just learning and know-how. You also learn certain values. And when you were mentioning that the knights going each to fight their own dragon, this has been learned by learning to be an actor. And the actor has to do this as a knight of King Arthur. You have to save women from bad dragons. But this may be the main difference between theater groups and the by theater, which is very efficient. I can create performances which can be very interesting. That in the theater groups, it exists a sort of emotional vision and justification of sort of metaphysics of our profession. Sometimes it's not exposed, sometimes it's very naive, sometimes become rough, ideological, blah, blah, blah. But it exists, and it's something which nourishes the personal secret wounds of the members of the group. So theater is not only art. It's very abstract. Theater are the women and the men who do it, each of them very vulnerable, and all of them arrive to our profession because they are escaping from something.
Yeah, really, Eugenio, thank you really for coming closer to the end. And again, also your pointing, create a micro society, a microorganism that works. If theater makes sense because it's a model for something, that's why some people hate it and it's banished. Our Indian colleague said, who we interviewed here, Abhishek said, movies in India, no one cares. They can be as good as I do a little play in my company, I get censored. They say no. So ask the government if it's important what I do. It is. And I think for you to create that model in your life, in your work as an artist, and also to create the space for everybody to perform their lives, their own lives, but also their work is fantastic. And I think it has many answers what we are looking for. And our little motto is Brecht's idea that new times need new forms of theater, but sometimes they are also, recycle. I have to look back. I mean, nothing is new under the sun, as Beckett taught us. As a last statement, of course, it might sound like a heavy question to you, but we do really often ask it at the very end. So, what do you say to young artists, people, also our listeners who are at home, to use the time, but how to do art? I mean, if you would think of young Eugenio who maybe was still a welder and you got mistreated and said, I study, but I don't want to do, I'm going to start my company, and you didn't know, will you survive? You put your life at risk, your reputation, and what your family thought of you. But what in the time of Corona, where already in New York it's impossible to do theater if you don't have money, and you're not often they say a trust fund, and you're not white, and you're not a trust fund baby. But and for them it's hard enough, and I admire them. But what do you say to what should we all do now in this moment we live in? And what should artists do? What's the meaning? What meaning can we create?
I can only say that be proud of what you are and conquer your diversity and make it be respected and accepted through your personal way of behaving, your doings, your sacrifices, your achievements. Start from tomorrow, getting up 1 hour before than today. And don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. 7 times on the floor, 8 up standing. Your worst enemy is yourself, because you have a tendency to be satisfied with the first result, to accept the norms of the others. And first of all, let small compromise erode your courage and rage. You have to fight, because nobody will help you. You have to find people with whom you have a certain affinity and be able to collaborate. You have to fight like a snake sometimes. Sometimes you have to fight like a dove. But you have to learn to choose consciously the longest and most difficult path, because it's there the unforeseeable, the surprise, the real enlightenment for yourself and for the other is. You have to teach yourself to be strong and don't expect help from anybody.
Okay. This is a very, very significant advice from Eugenio, with a whole life behind it and a whole experience. And most probably not the 10,000 hours, the 100,000 hours of real work to prove it. This is most significant. And maybe we all should go back and listen to it again. But this is a significant and an important reminder what we should be doing, and also what works. And that is also what all the stories and mystics told us. If you do what you say, something good will come out. And if your roof is broken, it rains in, but you see the moon. So I hope this time will help us to get closer to work, what you represent and what you already did on your own, very difficult circumstances with great resonance in people, and you changed people's lives and the idea what theater all is about. So it's been a great privilege for us to hear from you, and I would like to really thank you in the name of the Segal Center, the Graduate Center CUNY, and HowlRound, and everybody listening for taking your time and speaking to us. I know that's working, as you said, so much and so hard. So, but it was really important, I felt, and we had to have you with us here. So, to our listeners, please do think about what he said. We need a great theater, but as Eugenio said, it's all about the audience. Actually, it's all about you and what you do with it and how it means in your life, that it affects something in that barter. And this is what's important. And Roland Barthes, the great critic, said, your literature, he said, yeah, okay, they write books, but what's important, how we read it, what we make out of, how we compare it, Proust against, Zola and others, what you do about it. And I think this is also something, and Eugenio is providing us something to look at, to think about, a space. But ultimately, it's what you do, and then what action you take out of it to save your own lives and to make this country better when it looks like in terrible mythical stories where the king is mad and there's a plague in the country, and someone has to come up to help and change in your own micro society. And it's actually you who is listening. It's me, it's us. And Eugenio did that. So this is incredible significance, what you said today. And tomorrow we will hear from a New York actor, how he's a director, Paul Price, how he's experienced this moment in New York, also as a Black artist in that time. And Friday we have Liva Yatsi, who's a Syrian writer, playwright, poet, also director of documentary films, and how she's experiencing this moment. But to really thank you, Eugenio, again, and I hope it was a little bit also of meaning for you, and I can only wish it would be as inspiring to everybody as this talk was for me, that listening to you. Thank you again, and I hope you will have a good dinner. What will your dinner be in Denmark tonight? What are you going to have? Do you know?
I always eat Italian food, like my mother.
Your mother's, and you cook it? You cook it?
Yeah? No, I don't. But my wives do it.
They are good. So I hope you will have a wonderful dish tonight. Again, thank you, and to all our listeners, thank you for taking the time out of your life. I know it's much busier these days than we think. They are so full of uncertainties, and to listen also for a longer time, it's a big commitment, as Eugenio said, you for an audience, but it is something that happens in between. Thanks for HowlRound for hosting us, Thea, VJ, and my Segal team, Andy and Sun Yang, and please all do stay safe and stay tuned in, and I hope we will all see better days. Nothing lasts forever, not the good things, but also not the terrible things. So we will get over this, but we should be prepared. As Eugenio said, the moment before you shoot the arrow is the important one, and this is one which we are experiencing. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Frank, and to you and your collaborators.